You were recording.
We already started, Nicholas. We're already here. I'm going to do it every time because we both suck at starting things. So, welcome to episode number 2, Ready, Set, Lag podcast.
Welcome, everyone.
I'm Jarrod. This is Nicholas right here.
Hello.
Crispy clear audio.
Thank you. I got a new microphone and a mixer.
We did.
Cost me a lot of money.
But it was very much worth it because you sound incredible.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I told everyone, Ready, Set, Lag podcast, episode 0, I am dedicated to making this thing work. You know, I said I would put my money in it, and
you did.
There's my proof. I did. I hope I'm coming across crystal clear.
I'm about to say I'm listening to you right now, and if I could go back to the last time we recorded, the changes is insane, right?
Oh, yeah.
And also, we are running literally the exact same setup. It's literally the same microphone, same mixer.
Well, like this whole time since you've gotten yours, it's essentially just been like one long advertisement of like, yeah, this works really well. So,
well, like I'm not the biggest audio person, right? Like I don't know too much about it. So when you were reading off like all of these like different brands, it's like, dude, I know Shure, I know Audio Technica, and I know Yamaha. That's like literally it. Like I don't know about any other company. But we wanted to start episode 2 today with wow, oh my god, I forgot what I was gonna say. It was the
yeah, acknowledges.
No, that's not it. I said something the last podcast. Oh yeah, I wanted to clarify when we talk about game companies, right? And there's going to be a lot in this podcast where we're just absolutely trashing certain companies, and you know, a lot of it boils down to like EA and like the money grabbing and what I feel like is the, like, you know, the title to the last episode, the downward trend of games. I think it's ruining video games. But I wanted to clarify that when we talk about that stuff, right? I'm not talking about necessarily the individual people that work for that company, right? I understand that, you know, there's a wide range of what somebody does in a company. And, you know, the devs especially work really, really hard with what they do and what they're given. So I just wanted to clarify that. Like, we never want any hate to go to individual people that work for a company, because you never know what they do, or you never know the whole story because you don't work for the company. But first article we wanted to talk about, which, by the way, if you're watching this on YouTube or you're listening to this on whatever site, in the description of the episode, we will be linking every article that we talk about, so you can go read it yourself. And if we forget, let us know, because then we'll make sure we get it in the description, or I'll send it directly to you if you hit me up on Twitter or Discord or whatever it is. So Tom Henderson, being somebody that I've followed for a little bit now, writes for Xfire, and he wrote basically just wrote about their EA finally acknowledged, right? Finally said, Battlefield 2042 didn't cut it, right? And something we've known for a really, really long time. But the part that's crazy about all this is that when they're talking about this, they actually have to even bring this up is absolutely crazy to me. I'm trying to find exactly. Oh, right here. So it says, the early critical reception was good. However, according to EA, things took a turn, and that turn was, clears throat for dramatic effect, the surprise release of Halo Infinite multiplayer, and then in parentheses, I wish I was joking. Nicholas, my guy, my best friend, my what, when you saw this, what immediately went through your mind when you saw that somebody from EA, and I forget exactly who this person, we got a quote.
Her name is Laura Mila. Yeah, she is, let's see, where is it? Laura Mila, EA's chief studios officer.
So when you read that, what do you think?
I think even before that, like, I do have to commend the fact that they did bring up a few things of they did mention in this article a couple of the reasons was one, they moved from an older version of Frostbite to a new version, which is essentially, from what I've heard, is a completely different engine. And then everything going on from working at home, like with the current climate of everything, staying at home, then that contributed to it, which, I can understand. But to put blame
on
on,
a game that just was better.
yeah, well, and here's the thing. Halo, like when it launched, like it was free, right? So you still had people that are like, oh, so now I can use the money I was saving and I can just buy Battlefield instead. Like, how many people did that?
A lot of people weren't going to buy Halo to just play the single player, right? So you captured a whole like wider range of people because the multiplayer was free. And it's hard to know if whether or not the people who bought or played Halo were ever going to buy Battlefield or the other way around. But I think blaming a polished game, right? For the like when you compare a buggy game or a polished game to our buggy mess, it's like, dude, that's kind of your problem.
And here's the thing, like when Halo in the Halo Infinite multiplayer launched, really, it was pretty small at launch. There wasn't really much you could do, but the fact that you could actually play it, like, yeah, of course it's going to be better.
Yeah,
but,
and I also,
like,
with the article, with like discussing the fact that they said that they also, you can't, obviously people are coming back just from like Tom Henderson's tweets and things like that. Like they're picking, everybody, obviously they see that on that an exec for EA was saying everybody's going to latch onto that because that's kind of like that's a big deal. But also, they did blame the bugs and performance, game design, feature choices, which is obviously to the specialists versus the classes, which I will never understand. And the game not aligning with player expectations. So it's not that they like solely put all the blame on that. And I want to clarify that. It's not that they said this is exactly why the game failed. I think it's just important to talk about that somebody actually said it.
Really, if Battlefield came out the gate, like at launch, working really well, like if it was polished and it actually like played well, it wouldn't have nearly the drop off that we've seen of players. Like, there's no way that the release of Halo Infinite multiplayer, there's no way that should be even worth mentioning in a town hall meeting. Like, it shouldn't have that much of an effect.
Yeah, it shouldn't even be something that's even in there.
Like, I could see it having some effect, like releasing close to the Battlefield 2042 launch, but there is no way that you could like blame Halo and like there's no way it had that big of an effect that they needed to bring that up.
No, and then also, talking about like the player base thing, which we're going to go back to the article, but as of 31 minutes ago, there is 2,100 players on Steam. I know that does not cover console. It's not an overall indication of what its actual player base is. Like I said, because you got Origin, you've got Xbox, PlayStation, you've got all these things that doesn't calculate into this, but as of 31 minutes ago, 2,100. The 24-hour peak on Steam, 2,700. Right? So in the last 30 days, its all-time peak when the game came out was 100,000. Right? Just in the last 30 days, they are minus 51% of their player count, which is, I have never seen a game die off. Well, there's been games that have died off, but I've never seen like a Battlefield game just tank like this, right?
Oh yeah.
And from December, the average player base was 20,000, negative 60% gain. So they lost 60% of that player base. Then in January, they lost another 60% of their player base. And then in the last 30 days, they've lost 51% of their player base. So it goes from 20 to 7 to 3. That's nuts.
That is actually it. That might be record breaking. That's actually insane.
They're breaking all the wrong records.
Yeah.
And back to the X-Fire, the Tom Henderson, which, by the way, if somehow Tom Henderson ever sees this podcast, I would love to have you on. I've been a fan of yours and reading your articles and following your Twitter for a while now. You really keep me up to date on a lot of stuff. But going to that article he wrote, to the PC Gamer article, where I'm going to read the headline of it. The company had a very humble conversation that wasn't blaming external factors, says the communications VP, right? So basically what they're saying is, they actually just today, or it was today or yesterday, they actually messed with this article when I picked it out and wanted to talk about it. They were basically pretty upset that I guess people were latching on to the Halo thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm trying to find exactly where they might have. I think they did, because I remember seeing Tom Henderson tweet about it, saying that they had edited it, but I didn't. But I should have like highlighted it whenever I saw it. But basically, they got upset. Obviously, somebody writes an article about people are just punishing the game too. That's one of the biggest things about it, dude. People are absolutely going in on it.
Well, you got to understand, this game isn't like, it's not like the people who go out and buy FIFA every year and play essentially the same game over and over again. Battlefield games, like they take longer to come out, and like Battlefield players are really passionate about the franchise, So when something big like this happens, they're gonna riot.
So it says these stories are not accurately capturing the discussion and the context, which was an in-depth and very humble internal conversation about the recent Battlefield launch. It was about key learnings and actions we are taking, not blaming external factors. Is what who was it? It was the communications VP. And then, it is important that they talk about it. It is important that they figure out what they're going to do. Myself personally, I believe that the game it's too far gone at this point to even remotely it sucks because I spent money on it, but I wish they would just kind of be like, "Hey guys, look, we messed up. We'll get them next time." Like, that's kind of, and I know they can't do that, but that's kind of where I'm at with it. And in the words of the chief operating officer, what was it, Laura Mila?
Yeah.
Halo Infinite was a very polished title where Battlefield 2042 contained bugs and wasn't as polished. It wasn't as polished. It just wasn't polished. There was no polishing. Right, like it was literally that bad, and eventually we're gonna just stop talking about it, because I feel like there's always going to be something about Battlefield to talk about, just because it was, in recent memory, or that I can think of, period, probably one of the most disastrous launches ever, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then, I've got Tom Henderson's tweets here because I wanted to read those out. He said, "I'll be honest, I'm not entirely sure what EA is disputing with the X-Fire article. I know it's rustled some feathers over there because everyone got hung on the Halo Infinite thing, but it's literally what she said."
Yeah.
And then Laura herself even said beforehand, "I'm going to share some spots and insights with you about what happened about the launch, what information we had in front of us as we decided to launch the game, what the situation currently is, and of course the actions we are taking." So And there's more. Like, obviously, we're gonna link all this stuff. So if you guys really want to get in depth and you want to read all about this, because to me it's like never ending, right? Like, you can follow this trend forever. The only thing you guys need to know is if you're still somehow on the fence about Battlefield, do not buy it. Like, it's not worth your time. Just let it go, right? And honestly, unless something crazy comes out, I don't think we're going to really talk about Battlefield anymore. There's just nothing. And I know this is a little bit late as well. So with our schedules and everything, we go through and we read news articles pretty much all the way up until we record. And so there might be something that's pretty fresh. And, you know, then we've got a couple days before we record. So you might have heard all about this already. But we still wanted to cover it because I thought it was important to talk about. Yeah. But yeah, all the links to all this will be in the description of however you're watching this, or listening to this. So this next thing, Nicholas, saw you.
So I think we mentioned in the last episode of the podcast we wanted to talk about studio acquisition, specifically Microsoft buying out Activision Blizzard for nearly $70 billion.
Which, once again, dude, like this is something that's happened a while ago, but obviously we hadn't had this podcast started yet, so we're kind of playing a little bit of catch up on the news, so you guys can, you know, hear about what we think about it. But 70, I remember when I saw this and I lost my mind.
Oh yeah, it's one of the biggest things to happen in the gaming industry probably ever.
And so hold on, let's get into some of the specifics here. I've got this Forbes article. $70 billion. Prior to that, right, they bought Bethesda, ZeniMax, for $7.5 billion. Right? So you're going to that. I remember that being massive. And then they buy Activision for $70 billion.
Right.
I can't. I like what. I'm trying to think about it. It's just the money. The money is what kills me about it. Like the $70 billion is what's nuts. And I think it was
fast, dude.
And I think it was, if I remember right. Well, once again, this is kind of old news, so we weren't really like that hung up on. Like, we wanted to discuss it, but we weren't that like that crazy about it. Obviously, what we think about. We think what's going on, what's going to happen with all of it, is kind of our opinion. But I believe it was it an all cash buy? Like they bought all their stocks. It's nuts, right? Like the money that, you know, people talk about, you know, the forms of entertainment, and video games really are it, dude. That's where everybody's going. That's where everybody, you know, all these companies, and like once again, you're talking about like what is kind of ruining the gaming industry, right? And it is the fact that it's a good thing and it's a bad thing, but just all this money now, you know, people are finally realizing the kind of money that's in this stuff. And
yeah, well, the gaming industry makes more money than even Hollywood.
Yeah, and I think you're gonna see a lot more. You're gonna see a lot more of this happening. Like you're going to see a lot more, and you're going to see a lot more companies that you didn't think were going to get into like gaming. I think they're going to see them start studios like Amazon, you know, with New World, which was another dumpster fire of a game. And then and Lost Ark and all these kind of things. I think you're going to start to see, dude, we're about to see Walmart publishing games. I don't even know, like this is going to be the new normal.
Yeah, it's so mainstream that like all of these like everyone's gonna want a piece of the pie, you know.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, like this definitely it's gonna bolster the Game Pass for sure.
I think that's the biggest. I'm not gonna say it's the biggest reason. I've heard a lot of stuff with you know, with Blizzard and World of Warcraft and all those things. I've not seen anything specifically about the Blizzard titles. So like Overwatch and World of Warcraft and Diablo and all these kind of things about Game Pass and stuff like that. because Blizzard does still have contracts, or Activision still has contracts with Sony, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm interested to see how all that's going to play out.
Yeah, well, Microsoft said that they're going to honor the the contracts that Activision already had with Sony. However, I don't know, like if they make new like Call of Duties and stuff.
Yeah, after the contract.
Yeah, after the contract's over, man, I
think it's all going to be, it's all going to be Microsoft exclusives, right? I really do. And then you go back to this whole like, the whole fighting between Sony fanboys and Xbox fanboys, and to be honest with you, right now, the position that Microsoft is in, right? I think they've got it. They've got it in the bag.
Yeah, I've always personally myself, I've always kind of leaned more towards PlayStation growing up. I've always preferred its exclusives over the Xbox exclusives, and it's stayed that way. In fact, like I think in terms, and this is all my opinion, in terms of quality, the exclusives that come from Sony are still better than Microsoft. Microsoft is, but like the quantity of the studios that Microsoft is getting is really putting them toe to toe with Sony. But like, so Sony's like acquiring these big IPs, such as like now it's gonna be like Fallout and like Elder Scrolls.
I mean Microsoft,
but yeah, Microsoft. My bad. So like they've acquired Bethesda. Well, Bethesda has had its fair share of blunders kind of recently with.
Oh, we could have a whole show talking about Bethesda. A whole podcast episode.
It definitely raises concerns for me for Starfield and even Elder Scrolls 6.
Yeah, that's going to be, whenever those big massive titles come out that now, Microsoft kind of owns the rights to, and I think they've already said that Starfield is an exclusive. So, shout out to everybody who has both consoles or a PC and a PlayStation or whatever it is, because I think you're going to miss out. I think you're going to miss out on a lot of games. And then, you get on the whole debate about exclusives and whether or not they're a good thing. And in my opinion about it is like without exclusives, consoles wouldn't sell. So they're always going to be a thing, right? Like I think Microsoft definitely was making the push to have the relationship with Sony to kind of like with the cross-play stuff.
Yeah, I feel like Sony's kind of been on top for a while now, but with this, like I said, it's keeping them like head to head with Sony, and ultimately I do see this as a good thing, because there's nothing wrong with a little bit of healthy competition.
Oh, I think now you're going to start to see well, actually, before we talked about that, we have the VGC article about Phil Spencer reportedly started Activision talks days after the was it Kotick? Bobby Kotick?
The Bobby Kotick report.
Yeah, about him knowing about all the stuff that was going on in Activision, and it dude, like you want to like, obviously the stuff that happened with Activision is terrible, right? I don't think that the CEO should have ever been allowed to stay in the position that he was in for all the sexual misconduct.
Well, I do think that it's important that we do say that these are I think these are still allegations.
They are, right, but the company was so damaged by it, right?
Yeah, and that's the thing. It was so what was it? Wall Street Journal came out with a report that it damaged the reputation of the CEO of Activision Blizzard, Bobby Kotick, and therefore it also damaged the reputation of Activision Blizzard itself.
And when that comes out, what does good old Phil Spencer do? He starts just absolutely salivating at the mouth about the chance to buy.
Yeah,
the chance to buy him.
it implies that Microsoft Gaming is like sitting out here in the shadows and just waiting, and then they saw that the 11% stock drop in Activision Blizzard, and they're just like, now, you know.
But like what, like, you know, you think it's what Sony should have been there first, dude. Like realistically, I think it's the mind of Phil Spencer, and obviously, you know, not taking light of the things that are the allegations at Activision Blizzard, but Phil Spencer saw an opportunity and he got it.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, we kind of just wanted to discuss that this is the kind of things that I feel like is going to become the new normal with these companies, right? I think that they're going to, if DICE was like, you know, not already a part of EA, one of these companies right now after this launch would buy DICE, right? Like it would be something they would do. Obviously, well, myself personally, if DICE was not a part of EA, I don't think this problem would have happened to begin with. But this is the new normal, in my opinion, right? I think you're going to start to see more acquisitions of companies. You're going to start seeing more exclusives. And as bad as it is to say, dude, I'm kind of all here for it, dude. Like I really am. Like, I think it's going to push better games out. I think that Xbox and Microsoft is going to really try to fix, because even Blizzard's been turning into a dumpster fire lately.
Yeah, like they gotta be held to like a certain standard, and honestly, like companies like Microsoft Gaming or Sony are the ones to do that.
Yeah, I think that they're going to, you know, but then you hope that they don't just turn into,
yeah,
you know, what they're buying these companies for or from. You hope they don't turn into that. But you know, speaking of acquiring companies, Sony bought Bungie. So it's already started.
Yeah.
You know? So Sony bought Bungie for $3.6 billion. Not quite on the level, right? But I said this when we first saw this.
It was a good point too.
They didn't buy the franchises. You know, they got Destiny, right? Which is what Bungie is, you know, bread and butter.
It's pretty much the only IP worth bringing up with Bungie as of right now.
Yeah. So they bought that. I do think that's going to make them a lot of money. I think that Bungie overall has been a pretty decent company with Destiny. You know, we were big time players of Destiny. And I think with this acquisition, you know, people are thinking when it first came out, PlayStation's this is PlayStation's answer to Microsoft. It's like, well, that's a terrible answer, right? Because it's not even comparable. But the one thing that PlayStation gets out of this, which I think is the most valuable thing, is they're getting the devs, right? They're getting those veteran, the experienced company that made Halo, that made Destiny. Like, that to me is the $3.6 billion. That's what I think it's worth. That's what I think they probably thought as well. Like, obviously Destiny is huge, right? They're going to be so happy that they have that IP. I think Sony is going to continue to allow Bungie, because, you know, Bungie left Activision, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that they're going to let them ride out this next expansion, the Witch Queen that's coming out. I believe, it's been a while since I've been on Destiny. I believe there's one more expansion after this one. They're going to let them just keep riding that out. And then once that's done, Sony is going to put a lot of money and a lot of resources to make a Destiny 3, and that is going to be the best one. That's what I feel like is going to happen. Don't have any proof of it, but that is my opinion of what's going to happen. I think it's a great thing. But yeah, I think they bought the devs. I think they bought that they bought that experience.
And even outside of like possible Destiny 3, just having PlayStation and Bungie cooperating with each other could create some seriously amazing new IPs.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, we were talking about that. You know, having that devs team who are obviously very, very talented, and then bringing in, because the first game really suffered from just not really having a narrative, or it did, but it was all cutscene stuff. To Destiny 2, kind of upping that. Imagine making like Destiny 3, all the lore they have, and you're bringing in like the Naughty Dog writers, and you're bringing in like all this incredible talent to the studio to help them craft the perfect story to go with the perfect Destiny game. I think it's going to be massive.
Right. And definitely like the talks between PlayStation and Bungie had to have been before the announcement of Microsoft buying out Activision Blizzard. So this definitely wasn't a response to that.
Oh yeah, it wasn't like an instantaneous like so Sony's on Twitter, whoever's running like the CEO and all this kind of stuff are sitting there on Twitter and they're like, "Oh my god, let's buy Bungie."
Yeah.
Like that's not what happened.
Like the CEO of like PlayStation just walks into Bungie and just like tosses a stack of cash. Like,
yeah, that's not. This was definitely in the talks for a while. Once again, I think it is an incredible choice. The next, I don't know what there'll definitely be another one, and I wonder what it's going to be. I personally think Microsoft is going to buy Ubisoft, or they're gonna buy something like that, and which once again, dude, like Ubisoft's another company that's been tanking in my eyes, and I can see that being the best thing for them, right? I just hope to God it doesn't kill Splinter Cell, because please give me another Splinter Cell game.
Please give us a good
Splinter Cell game. We've been waiting for forever. Please, dear God. If that happens.
So, I've been looking online and stuff, seeing what some people would suggest that the Sony, like what kind of studios that Sony should purchase in response. Like one good one I heard was Warner Brothers Interactive Entertainment.
You're saying they're up. It's up for sale.
Yeah, well, at least it was up for sale. I kind of checked it more recently, but like. Apparently Warner Brothers Interactive Entertainment is owned by AT&T, and it was put up for sale for $4 billion, and it had some serious prospects. Activision Blizzard was one of them. EA was another one. It was even reported that Microsoft was interested as well.
Well, stay away from EA, please.
Well, and here's the thing. I read this article. It came out time, I think it was last month. Gamesindustry.biz, like this article. I think it's like the only one I found, but they claim that Warner Brothers Interactive Entertainment is no longer for sale. AT&T just saw too much of growth potential with them, so they took it off the market. So unfortunately, for all those prospects and for possibly Sony,
Microsoft's about to swoop in there. I think they see the potential. I think they see the potential more, right, with these studio acquisitions. I think they know what they're doing. I think Phil Spencer knows what he's doing.
Yeah, well, it's a shame Sony couldn't get its hands on WB Interactive Entertainment, because they could have had some serious heavy hitters like Mortal Kombat, the Batman Arkham series, the Injustice games, Lego.
They could have really.
They really could have used like games of that quality, and all the sheer quantity of those IPs as well. Some other ones, it's like Sony has really good relationships with a lot of these studios, to the point where I figured they were pretty much like that. I figured that Sony pretty much owned them, but you got games studios like Supermassive. They created the what was it? Until Dawn game. I don't know if you remember that. It was, from what I understand, it was severely underrated, but it was really good. They've worked really close with Sony in the past, so that's a potential studio they could acquire, or a lot of people want Sony to get their hands on From Software, but currently they are owned by Kadokawa, which is the anime producer.
Well, I think, like I said, I just think that you're going to start seeing these acquisitions happening at a pretty fast rate. Especially, it's very interesting to see what 2022 is going to hold with these studios.
But yeah, meanwhile, you have Nintendo just like eating a bucket of popcorn, just watching all this happen, and
dude, they're not worried about it, dude. All they got to do is put out another Mario or Zelda game, and they're living life.
Well, Nintendo is also like, aren't they also working with independent developers? Like they got like
they even started working with they had that stuff with Ubisoft too. So they're doing their own thing. Nintendo definitely has their own playbook, and they got their own way of doing things.
Which, all in all, I definitely see this as a good thing for the gaming industry as a whole. You definitely want a healthy amount of competition, so in the long run, the consumer, like us, like we can get good quality video game content.
Exactly.
It's gonna push for higher standards, I feel like. So I do see this. I see this as an absolute win for us.
I most definitely. And this next article I was looking at, and we're gonna save that one. I've got an idea, so we're gonna save this last article that we were gonna talk about for the next episode.
Okay.
But we do have something very, very important to discuss.
Yes, we do.
Guys, it's time. The first Ready, Set, Lag official score of a game. The official rating of Dying Light 2. I understand, we talked about it in the last podcast, and we said we were going to have more to discuss about it. We were kind of still talking about it, and I understand that we're a little late, right? I understand that most likely at this point, if you were going to decide to buy this game or not, you've probably already made it. And we're definitely going to, when new games come out, we're definitely going to try to get these reviews out faster. So hopefully, when you go to make a choice, you check and see what we have to say about it. But I'm going to let, because of my personal feelings towards this game, Nick definitely was the one that reviewed this game for us. We talked about it and discussed it. But this is definitely one of your reviews, man, because I once I beat the game, dude, I didn't even want to really talk about it anymore. I personally was very, very let down. So I'm going to let you, here's how we're going to do. I'm going to let you read the pros of the game, and then I'm going to read the cons. Right.
And we'll go into detail about each item
absolutely
that we listed off here. So we want to give you as much of a complete picture of this game as we possibly can, so you can have the most informed decision of whether or not you would like to go ahead and buy Dying Light 2 Stay Human. Okay, so
here we go.
Some of the pros of the game. Honestly, graphics look pretty good.
Yeah, I don't think there's I don't think there's any debate on the graphics. I think it's a beautiful game. Standing on top of a tower looking down, it's gorgeous.
Honestly, there's not really a whole lot to say there. Just like it looks good. It's a really pretty game to look at. Very easy on the eyes. So I guess we'll just go ahead and move on. Okay, so there's an element to the game that I really enjoyed myself that was not present in the first game. So in Dying Light 2 Stay Human, you actually have a threat of turning into a zombie at night, or like when you enter a dark zone. So when at night or when you're in a dark zone, you have an immunity meter, and you have a certain amount of time before you turn. So, and the only way to offset it is by, like waiting for the sun to come up, if you can last that long, or getting into some UV lights at a shelter, or some
You got
mushrooms.
the UV mushrooms.
Yeah, or like you can also craft it into like an immunity booster, stuff like that. But yeah, I thought that was a nice little touch in the game. It gave this there's this added element that created even more tension when you're being hunted by these zombies at night.
Yeah, I thought it was later on in the game, right? I feel like it was kind of an afterthought just because you did, and it's not a bad thing, right? Because you obviously you live in that world and you become better at judging your time and bringing the right consumables and all those kind of things. But there was some times in that game where that meter's ticking down and you have to, whatever you're doing, if
you're sweating.
Yeah, your sweat, you take off, right, to find like a safe zone or you just try to get under some of that UV light. So it definitely was a really, really cool mechanic. A little bit more of a threat at the start of the game. You kind of mitigate it later on. Like you kind of realize how to work with it.
Yeah, well, also, like you take throughout the game, you can find these things called inhibitors, and you take inhibitors to increase your health or stamina. And every time you do, your immunity timer gets a boost. So later on in the game, the threat of turning doesn't really apply that much because you have like so much. I think when you max everything out, you have basically 14 minutes.
Yeah, so just a lot of time.
Yeah, like it's really like something that you can just not worry about later on in the game. But overall, like it did create this added bit of tension and this like you said, like it really made you sweat right at the beginning.
And to go with one of those things that really makes you makes you sweat and kind of adds to like the kind of like heart pumping about it is the music, right? The music while you free run, the longer your score is, the more elements of the soundtrack and the music gets added, and it definitely makes you kind of feel more like you're I don't know, just kind of like you're living in the game, like you're kind of like a superhero running around. So it's
so like
awesome.
That's another thing on the list. Dynamic music while you're free running. Well, you got another thing we're gonna come back to, but yeah, while you're free running, if you chain together parkour and really build up your score, the music starts to like build,
which just adds like they really tried with that, like with the overall like feeling of running around and kind of being in the world. Like they really did. Add some cool features, right? Like I think the music, the dynamic music mixed with the like the threat of turning into a zombie and having that timer, like all of those things combined just definitely makes the atmosphere of the game really, really makes it great.
Yeah, it makes it. I felt like the dynamic music was it made it pretty immersive as well. Like you're sitting there and you're running and you're chaining together your parkour score, and it's like suddenly you got this little synth beat, and then the guitars and stuff come in, and you jump. Whenever you jump from one building to another, the music sort of swells and then it muffles. Like the music itself is holding its breath, waiting to see if you make this jump.
Yeah, it's definitely it's a cool feeling, right?
Yes, super nice job, whoever was in charge of the music there. Phenomenal. That more of that, please. That was a really nice touch.
Yeah, when Dying Light 3 comes out, which it definitely probably is going to.
Yeah, but yeah, like that. Bringing up fun parkour, man. Fun parkour system and combat mechanics. The gameplay was just fun.
Yeah, I think with all of my what I don't like about the game, definitely was not the like running around part of the game, right? Like I definitely thought that was fun. The parkour system, it was good in the first game, but they definitely made it better. The combat to me is very much like is still very, very much like the first game. There's some differences there, but for the most part, they kind of kept that core bit of the game the same, and then they did kind of just make it better, right? Like the parkour system seems better, seems smoother. The combat was great, and like I said, it was great in the first game too. So they really didn't have too much to.
Well, I did feel like the terrain felt better in this game. Like it was meant, like it definitely felt like the terrain was made to make the parkour like so much more fun than the first game.
You know what? One thing that I will mention and maybe I'm wrong, or maybe you can correct me about this, but I don't remember. In the first game, you know, the parkour, teaching you how to parkour was like, you know, one of the first things you did in the game.
Mm-hmm.
Did anybody mention it in Dying Light 2? Like any of the characters?
About training?
Or about just parkouring? Like, hey, this is how we get around.
I mean, there's a group of people who are called like the Night Runners, but
yeah. Other than that, but like what, you know, like the first game, like it's like, hey, this is how we get around in Haran.
You mean just like, oh, everyone in the game is some kind of parkour expert.
Yeah, that was a cool part of the first game, and I didn't really notice it. I didn't like nobody. I never remember any. It's just like, hey, you're in this world, you parkour, and that was kind of it.
Well, like in the first one, the Brecken, he was the leader of the people in the tower, and what he was before, you know, Haran collapsed was a parkour instructor, and he's the one who taught everyone parkour and how to survive. So there was actually like a legitimate like lore reason of why there were people who could do parkour.
But I don't remember that in the in this game. I guess it's not there, right? But I mean, obviously it's Dying Light 2. You know you're gonna parkour. Not that big of a deal. I just thought, you know, I was just thinking about that as we're sitting here talking about the parkour system. I remember that in the first game, and it was so memorable. And I don't think it was in this game, like with them discussing it. But the parkour system, regardless, is a great time. You're gonna love running around the city. Same thing with the combat mechanics. It was smooth. The bow just really adds that, like that was such a cool feature to have in the game.
Yeah, I did like the introduction to the bow.
And now something that I don't do.
Side quests.
Yeah, I'm that guy.
Yeah, as for me, I am the completionist to the bone. If there's anything that I can do before continuing the story missions, that I do that. I do it.
Yeah, I'm definitely the opposite. I just want to get I want to get through the story, the main story.
Well, I will say about this: some of the side quests in Dying Light 2 Stay Human helped expand the lore a little bit, and even loosely tied into the main story. In fact, let's see, there was obviously I'm not going to spoil anything, but there is actually I did find out a side mission that, depending on the choice that you make in that side mission, can really determine a very important outcome in the main story.
But I still won't do it.
Well, it's like honestly, it's more of a threat if you do it and then make the wrong choice, you know. But like the fact that something like the things that you do in like one or two of the side quests, like the fact that they integrate into the main story makes them feel like they're worth doing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Makes it
Like like it gives it more purpose, and I really appreciate them going through and doing. I would love to have games that do that with the side quests a lot more, where it can affect what happens in the story.
Yeah, I think it's still something I'm not gonna do. But if I was gonna do side quests or side stories or whatever it is, I would like them to have some kind of impact on, or at least the world you live in, right? Like the world you live in the game makes some kind of difference there. And this is actually, because this is probably the only, other than the kind of blanket statements, you know, the graphics look great, the gameplay's pretty good. The part that I liked most about the game and the part that I hated most about the game is definitely the story of the game, right?
Mm-hmm.
The story of Dying Light 2, there was some missions in that game that actually got some emotional responses out of me, and I actually got pretty upset, or like not because I'm upset, like because it sucked. It's like it actually makes you be like, oh my god, right? Like,
Yeah.
you kind of like you feel like your blood starts pumping a little bit. And so that was really, really cool. There was definitely a lot of that tension that kind of built up there towards the end of the game. And I like I said, I really, really enjoyed the ending, or kind of like towards the end of the game. Uh, and it took us a while to get there, right? Long completion time. So with the first run, or on my save file, we might have done one or two side quests. But we stuck pretty much straight through the main story. And when I closed Steam after the credits rolled, 22 hours is how long it took for us just to beat the main story. And I knew mine was going to be more accurate than yours, because I knew you were still playing on your save file, and we were kind of like waiting until I got back on to move through with the main story. But 22 hours to complete just a main story. And I understand that not everybody plays that way. Even if you're not a crazy like person who does a crazy side quester, right? Like, you're still going to do some of them. So if it took us 22 hours to beat the main story, roughly, and that's like hard, like us just running through it, I could see 25 to 30 hours. If you're somebody who kind of likes to run around a lot, maybe even longer. If you're somebody who likes to run around, do some side quests, do some of the challenges, but not like the crazy completionist, I would say about 25 to 30 hours, which is a good bit of time, especially for what you've been getting recently.
Yeah, and a lot of games nowadays, they'll have that, like that completion time of like, oh, like you beat the game within like 4 hours, and it's so unfulfilling.
Yeah.
So like it definitely, like, you can definitely tell that a lot of hard work did go into this game.
But that hard work leads us to the cons, right?
Yeah.
So, we just talked about the tension-filled story. Yeah, being
a few moments. There's a few
really good moments.
Sprinkled throughout the entire story. There were a few like really impressive moments.
But for the most part, in my opinion, starting with the cons of Dying Light 2, the story was pretty predictable, right? Like, there was, other than like I was talking about those tension-filled moments that you feel, a lot of that 22 hours that we spent, I knew exactly what was going to happen, right?
Yeah.
Like, there was like, other than those exceptions, you kind of start playing the game and you get a couple hours in and you kind of figure out how it's all going to go. And, still talking about the story, right? There was some of the story lines were pretty reused from Dying Light, which, once again, if something's broke, don't fix it. Just kind of expand, kind of elevate from where you were. Like, you don't have to reinvent the wheel when you make a sequel. You just have to make it good, and you have to just kind of evolve from where you were, but you don't have to make a 180. But you did notice it. And we're not going to get too into it, because we do want you, or if you're interested in it, we still want you to be as surprised as you can and still enjoy the story as much as you can. But it was predictable. That's the main thing. And then the part that made me mad, right? The story made me pretty mad, but the part that really, really got me was just the glitches. The bugs were awful.
Like we would see like enemies who would pick up giant boulders and then toss them, and then they're just like stuck there in the air.
Yeah, and you shoot them with a bow, and they still don't move, and then you kill them, and they just start falling from the sky.
And there was a few that we ran into where it literally was just it prevented progression.
Yeah, we had to either die or restart the game. And then we had the big bug where we were playing co-op and you couldn't see anybody in the cutscene.
Yeah, like everyone. Well, even it was throughout multiple cutscenes, man. Like, they were just not there. I'd see floating items, but that was it. And then something it was just me, uh, and it's pretty unforgivable. But I went and unlocked a Night Runner hideout, right? So I go in, I start up the generator, UV lights come on, I can sleep in the bed. Sometime later, I come back, the generator isn't running, I can't turn it on, UV lights are off, and I can't sleep in the bed. It's marked as like it's marked as I got it available, but yeah, ever since then I have not been able to use it the entire, even if I like completely exit out of the game, get back in, I still can't use it.
Yeah, and that's the progression stuff is the game needed a lot more time, right? That's pretty much
Yeah.
what it boils down to. The game needed a good bit more time in development.
Well, yeah, that's another thing is like that I mentioned in the previous episode was I feel like they announce games way too early now. So it feel like so there's a lot of pressure from the consumers, and it makes them want to rush the game out a little faster. Um, we will definitely come back to this when we get further down this list, but yeah, I feel like that's part of it. Oh, and real quick, I I definitely noticed this because like after we beat the game, you stopped playing it. I kept
Absolutely.
playing it. I continued the story from where I left off towards the beginning, and I can honestly tell you that playing the game co-op makes it even more buggy.
Yeah,
Like
I remember you
what?
mentioning that, like, because you did your solo run through of the game. But there was like there when we were playing through, like there was some stuff that just wouldn't work, and I thought I would have not played the game. I definitely would have gotten the game, and I would have gotten, I would have started to play it. But if I wasn't playing the game co-op, which I feel like is a big selling point of the game, and also it's a heads up to other studios, start making your games co-op, like your single player stories co-op, right? Like I love multiplayer games. I love like FPSs and MMOs and all those kind of things, but there's something about getting a really, really good story and experiencing that story with somebody else or multiple people. It is,
We
and
thirsty out here for
yeah, for
good
some
co-op
good
games.
co-op games. But like, I don't even mind that there was two Aidens, right? Like nobody ever mentioned that there's two people. I don't even care. Like we were playing it together and it was fun. So I was obviously not playing the game solo when Nick wasn't on. And so I just thought that's how buggy the game was. But apparently, Nick playing the game by himself, he experienced a lot less of those bugs. So a lot of it was probably network stuff and server stuff. But still, does not matter in my opinion because the game should work. If you have a co-op option, the game should work with co-op, and
Games should just work at launch period.
they should. Which we're dreaming. We're
Mm-hmm.
dreaming. Another thing is, with talking about how fun the co-op or the combat was. There was some things about the first game that they definitely should have moved into the second one. The biggest one was that you cannot repair your weapons. When they're gone, they're gone.
Yeah, which I mean, you can keep looking around and you can find it again or buy it, but um, yeah, it's just like it felt like a lot of core elements from the first game were not in the like one of my favorite things in the first game was there's this move that Kyle Crane could do, this the skill you could unlock where he takes like zombie guts and he smears it on himself, and then he can essentially mask himself from the zombies.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt like that came in in handy quite a bit. And for some reason, they decided to take that out. At least I will say this: at least they kept the drop kick in. I do
And I feel
appreciate
like
them leaving that in.
that feature would have been so much better in this game too. Whenever you're sneaking around in those dark zones, right? Like that
Oh,
feature would have
yeah.
been so much better. But we have a lot of condescending points here because we are trying to pick good things out of the game as well as cons. Nick can speak a little more to this because, like I said, I just don't really do them. If that main story doesn't grip me, I don't care about the side stuff. But side quests tend to be boring fetch quests, right?
Yes, so many of the side quests pretty much just dissolve into I need this item. It's at this location. Location is full of infected. I'm like, I will go get thing, and then you go get the thing and bring it back, and like that's it. Like it, like so like that's how the majority of the side quests are going to go. Either that, or it's some kind of weird built-in narrative to parkour challenges. Literally, you'll go talk to a guy, and he'll be like, "Oh, I need sugar delivered to all my bees throughout the city. Won't you please take some sugar to all these bees?" And it's literally just you running through, getting like hitting the checkpoints. It's just a parkour challenge. And then you come back and you talk to the person like, "Oh, thank you for giving sugar to my bees."
The
and
bees
like
are safe.
yeah, like that's literally like they give some weird like narrative tie-in to parkour challenges, and there's literally no point. There's no reason to have that. You don't need to do that.
So, in this, we're just harping on the story stuff, which is, I remember when the trailer dropped for this game, which was probably the most disappointing thing about Dying Light 2 for me, was that all of those important choices in the game don't matter.
There are a select like 3 or 4 choices throughout the entire game that actually like really contribute to the ending that you actually get. But for the most part, like majority of the choices that you will make throughout this game, like they will not matter at all.
But they sold it like it did.
Which really the majority of like the choices, I feel like were just for the purposes of role playing. It's like, oh, do you want to be the nice guy or do you want to be a jerk? Like that's essentially what the.
But you could literally be the jerk the whole time, and then just at that one important decision, choose this. Go right back to making all the terrible decisions, and you're still gonna get the good ending of the game. It doesn't make any sense. And then so don't be caught up on that. A lot of those decisions, like I said, there's about 3 or 4 that actually determine what ending you get. A lot of the ones that pop up, it just don't matter.
Honestly, like a lot of the stuff that we've seen originally, like in the original gameplay trailers and stuff, just a lot of that just wasn't there.
No, yeah, it wasn't.
It is not at all.
And that was frustrating. That's another reason. At the end of this that we're going to talk about, the score of the game. There's why there's a little bit of a difference between our two, but like there's a lot of this overselling, overhyping, and then you get a game that comes out that either doesn't live up to what they said they were going to do, or just is completely different.
Going from what we saw on the early gameplay trailers to the final product, it really feels like a Ubisoft downgrade.
It does. Other than the graphics still look great. But maybe there was some downgrading. I didn't do like a side by side of the gameplay and the trailer, but I just know from what I watched about the gameplay, it was definitely different. And then we have to talk about this. We're not gonna spoil it for you. The ending sucked.
Yeah,
and we got the good one. I want to preference that. We got the good ending.
Specifically, the way that the ending was presented was just, I don't know if it's like they ran out of time or if they were just a little lazy.
Oh yeah, it was terrible.
I don't.
Why are we reading this? Like that's what we were saying at the end of the game.
I don't think that this is spoiling it, but essentially, like, stuff happens, right? And then suddenly you're brought to a black screen, and then just some white text will pop up and then explain like the results of the choices that you've made.
Terrible.
Oh my God. Like it's show it's that golden rule of show, don't tell.
Yeah, that was frustrating as spending the time to beat the game. And then there is a cutscene, right? Like there is cutscenes. It's just the fact that there was large portions of that were in text
Yeah, and
which was awful.
Then like after that, like the actual like very ending is essentially, depending on the choices you made, the ending is literally pretty much the same, but just reskinned depending on what ending that you get. Like it doesn't really feel all that different.
So, with that, the official Ready Set Lag score for Dying Light 2 Stay Human is a 5.5 out of 10, right? So the game is not terrible. It is not a bad game. It is slightly above average. And I think that is a fair score for this game. But I will tell you how we got to 5.5 out of 10. I wanted to give the game a straight 5 out of 10. There was some stuff, the bugs and some stuff with the story that I just could not look past. And then Nick, you wanted to give the score a 6 out of 10.
Yes, I wanted to give it a 6 out of 10 because even with everything that we've, even with all the cons and stuff that we've experienced, overall, I did have a good time with the game. I had fun. Essentially, like that's it. Like it's just it was still a good time. They definitely have a lot to work out. Hopefully, if they do a Dying Light 3, they take our, if they're listening, Techland, if you're listening, I hope you take our constructive criticisms to heart, and so you can create something better out of it. But yeah.
But that is how we just went middle of the road, right? Like I gave it a 5, he gave it a 6, 5.5 out of 10. So whenever we rate these games, like we will have the official, RSL score for the game. But obviously we're people, right? So me and Nick are not always going to agree. I don't think we're ever going to be way off from each other. That's one reason we decided to make Ready Set Lag, is our opinions very much sometimes, or most of the time, are the same. It's key differences between the 1 point difference that things that he liked more and things that brought my score down. But overall, I will say there are some fun experiences in the game. I would wait for the game to go on sale. I would not spend $60 on it.
Definitely wait for a price drop. I'd say $40.
Yeah, $40 seems fair. I think even if you can get it at mid like 45, I think it still would be worth getting.
Yeah, it's definitely it's a fun game to play. But yeah, definitely wait for that price drop, to hit before you decide to go ahead and buy it.
But with that, that concludes episode 2 of the Ready Set Lag podcast. I really, really appreciate you guys listening. If you want to see more, please go to www.readysetlag.com and click on the podcast link. It'll take you to our Buzzsprout page, to where you can find the link to our podcast and every plausible website that hosts podcasting. We definitely made an effort to be on every site. You will never escape. You will never escape our podcast. We are on every site. We're going to add more sites to be on. And if there is a certain site that we are not on that you would like us to post our content on, feel free to send us a message on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, whatever it is, and we'll see what we can do. But I appreciate it so much, and we will see you guys later on this week for episode 3. Nick, anything to say?
I would actually like to go ahead and bring up, if there's anything that you, the viewers, would really like to hear about, like if there's maybe like a game you want to hear our opinions on, or if there's like a topic or anything like that, we really want our viewers to feel like they're a part of this, so if you want to do that, go ahead and I guess contact us. Probably what the best place would be Twitter.
Contact us on Twitter. If you go over to the website, there's our email there. Feel free to shoot us an email. If you're on Instagram, Facebook, anything like that, feel free to shoot us a message. If you noticed, also in the podcast, that we got anything completely wrong, we are not above Admitting our mistakes, right? We're
Call
gonna
us out.
we're gonna talk about a lot of things, and if we get something wrong, we will definitely try our best to correct it. Or if we think we're right, we will tell you why we think we're right. But we look forward to those conversations. We look forward to talking to you guys. Thank you guys so much for being here, and we love you,
We love you.
so much. Thank you. Bye.